and welcome back. I have for you guys some Halloween DIYs. More specifically, some viral TikTok DIYs that I came across that I want to recreate with you guys and see how easy it is to do, because everybody always makes things look so easy on TikTok with these DIY videos and it all just looks so pretty. So we'll find out today together how these projects end up working out. But again, like I mentioned, these are TikTok videos, so full credit goes to the creators. I will have them linked down below in the description box in case you want to check out the original videos. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into today's DIYs. So first DIY here. This one you guys know I had to recreate because it is supposed to be a Pottery Barn dupe. It is a skeleton candy bowl that is originally $200 on their website, and that is just an outrageous price to pay for a candy bowl. And honestly, her DIY ended up looking so much cuter than the original, so I had to recreate this. It seemed really simple too, because all you needed was one of these guys right behind me, a large 24-inch skeleton. This guy is from Amazon, which I will link everything down below for each DIY in case you want to try to recreate it yourself. You'll have links for everything that I found. So you needed one of these guys. You also needed a bowl, like one of these from Target. This is the Made by Design serving bowl, and you're actually supposed to be able to position your skeleton a bunch of different ways once you are done with this, which I actually really loved about the DIY version here. And then of course, a little spray paint. She uses a different kind of spray paint. This is the one that I'm gonna be personally using. This is the Rust-Oleum Bright Coat Metallic Finish. So it's gonna be a super shiny. That cap was broken. Silver color. You're also gonna need a little bit of black paint. That is gonna help give it a little bit of an antique-y kind of look. I don't have that one to show you. That one's a big tub that I already own. So I think any kind of paint could do. And then you're gonna need something to glue this guy together, which I ended up grabbing this E6000, an industrial strength adhesive. So now that I told you what we're using, let's go ahead and go and try to DIY this. So the first thing I started with was taking the string that was at the top of his head and just kind of pushing it back inside. That way it kind of filled the hole a little bit and I didn't have to cut it and then just have an empty hole. I guess I could have also found something to kind of fill it with too. That could have worked, but I just decided to just tuck it back in there. And then I am just playing around, testing where the bowl is going to sit on the skeleton, making sure that he is still able to move, and then checking all the points in which we are going to have to glue. So it's on the legs, the ribs, and over on the hands in which we're going to actually have to add that glue. Once I had that figured out, I realized I needed to put him on some kind of surface so that way I didn't get a whole bunch of glue everywhere on my table. And then I just began taking this E6000 and placing it everywhere I needed to glue down the bowl. It definitely is a little bit tricky to work with because it is kind of runny. In the video, she does use hot glue over this one, but I just haven't had the best of luck using hot glue on projects. I feel like over time it kind of starts to separate, especially with plastic items. I don't know if that's just me, but I just went around making sure everything was making good contact, cleaning up things that were runny. And very crucial, I did let that dry a good hour before deciding to move on to the next phase, which is going to be happening outside in the backyard because it is the spray paint phase. You definitely need a very good ventilated area. If you're not doing it outside, definitely recommend outside, but I mean, I did have a lot of wind today, so that was kind of interesting to have to deal with the spray paint. With this DIY, you definitely do have to have a lot of patience because you do have to do multiple coats and you definitely want to give it a good amount of time to dry before going on with all of the coats. You want to make sure that you get all angles, you even get the underside of it. So once this was all said and done, I believe I was about 3 coats into the skeleton bowl here. Now that she is fully coated in her spray paint, the next step would be to take a crumpled piece of newspaper or any thick kind of paper like that, dip it into a little bit of black paint and just start kind of streaking it along the bowl, a little bit all over the skeleton, just to give it that antique-y look. But the more I was looking at it, the more I just fell in love with this beautiful metallic look that this skeleton has with the spray paint that I used. And I am actually going to be just deciding to keep it as is. I didn't want to add any of that paint to it. Because I mean, just look at how pretty it looks on its own sitting on the shelf like this. Like, I am obsessed with this. And the way that you can have it just hanging off the shelf like that, or tucking it up with its legs up and having it sitting in the shelf. This bowl is so freaking cool. I absolutely love it. Moving on now to DIY number 2. This one is so simple, but yet so genius. And again, super simple in the products that we need. I think I actually ended up finding the exact pumpkin that she used. I am not 100% sure. She did not have a list of products in which she used, at least not one that I could find. So I just kind of had to recreate the items list from things that I found, but I believe I found perhaps the pumpkin she bought. This one is a Hobby Lobby white pumpkin. It says it's a foam pumpkin. Hobby Lobby definitely does seem kind of expensive. I did see that they had some crazy pumpkin prices this year for some fake ones. This one was $24.99, but everything is 50% off at Hobby Lobby. It kind of seems like Michael's and Joann's, where they always have a sale. So this was just 12 bucks, which I was like, all right, you know, doable. Which is the same for all of the floral items here. And again, she did not have a product list, so I just kind of winged it. I did love the tones that she went with, so I tried to kind of stay within that same family. So I got this big old stem of some kind of like beigey toned leaves. This one was $11.99, again, 50% off, so I got one of these. I did also grab this other one that also had some leaves on it, but these were a more white kind of style leaf with some of those red veins on the leaf, which I thought was a nice little detail, and they had these fun little balls on them. I don't know what these are called, but this was one bundle, again $11.99. And then I wanted this kind of tone, what would you call this, like sage color? I don't even know what these ones are called. Again, $11.99, got one bundle. And then I got one last bundle, which I'm not sure I want to add to it, but I kind of wanted something with a black toned element to contribute to this arrangement, because my entire house, the theme is white, gray, and black. It's kind of neutral. I don't really like that much color, so, you know, it went with my tones. So I want to see if I can incorporate this one. This one was a little cheaper than the rest of them, $9.99. So these guys right here are the only items you had to actually purchase. Other items that we need for this DIY is going to be one glass cup and a knife. So let's go ahead and go to my little DIY section and try to attempt this. So first things first, we want to start out with that glass that we're going to use. Now, this one is kind of important because you're going to use a cup that is going to be able to fit inside of this pumpkin. So you kind of want to pick your glass accordingly. And we're just going to go ahead and trace around the edge of the glass at the very top, trying our best to make sure that it is right in the center. We are going to need to be cutting into the pumpkin in order to get that glass in there. This actually proved to be a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be because it is this foam pumpkin. It was very tough to try to actually get the pumpkin to let go of this top here. That foam just did not want to let go, but eventually I got it. I just had to angle the knife a little bit, keep digging at it, being very careful not to go over that line there because we do not want to make the hole too big where the glass is just going to sink in there. We want it to be kind of a smooth transition. And this was definitely a case of TikTok made it look so much easier than what it was, because trying to remove all of this foam on the inside was difficult. At first I tried to use this knife to just cut away little pieces of it, shaking it out, but what I ended up realizing, which was so much easier, was I actually ended up grabbing a fork. And I started to use that fork to just start scraping at the insides, and it works so much easier to quickly start removing chunks of the inside of that foam. And I just kept going gradually, taking out more foam, placing the cup in there, seeing if it fit, and just going back and forth like that until eventually it did fit. I want to make sure that it sits nice and flat. You can't see of that glass poking through when you have it set down on a table. But now finally we get to move on to the most fun step of this DIY, the flower arrangements. And I forgot to mention, you do need a wire cutter for this step, so that way you can take the arrangements off their stems and just arrange them by height. I had no real game plan when it came to this step. I just knew I wanted to play around with it and make it as fluffy as possible. And I just wanted to get a really good, nice mix of the tones, so you'll just see me going back and forth between a bunch of the different types of flowers, rearranging them until I eventually liked it. Once I was happy with the arrangement, I actually ended up only having 2 stems left over. I used everything else, which for some, this may be a little bit overstuffed, but I kind of like the stuffed look of this. And here's a full 360 spin of this whole piece. I definitely focused my attention a little bit more to one side because this is going to be placed against the wall, so I didn't really necessarily feel like I had to have a 360-degree perfection on all sides. But here's what it looks like where I am going to be placing it. It is right at my entryway area and I am obsessed. The perfect hint of fallness going on here. And finally, our last DIY, and if you are a Harry Potter fan, you are going to be swooning over this DIY. It is floating candle lights. I really wish that I could actually be putting these above my dining table and just having like a floating moment for dinner, but I have a ceiling fan right above my dining table, and I know, even though I tell my husband, don't turn on the fan, he's gonna forget one day and just be like, doop, and then it's just gonna be like for everything. So my backup plan here is to put these outside on my porch, where at nighttime you can light these up and it'll just look a little bit more whimsical and magical outside. And again, a pretty short list here for supplies that you need. You are gonna be needing the key ingredient, if you will, the LED candle lights. This particular pack that I bought, I would not 100% recommend unless you do not mind the fact that you actually have to twist every single one of them in order to turn them on. The one that I thought I was getting with this was supposed to have a remote, ended up showing up without a remote, and I feel like you kind of want a little bit more of a convenience of having a remote to just be able to turn them all on at once. But yeah, so main item you need is of course the candles. You'll need batteries because all the ones I've seen on Amazon do not come with batteries, so you do need a lot of batteries. You will also need these command hooks, which for some reason Amazon decided to send them like this instead of the normal pack together on the box. But they're gonna look like this up close, so that way they are clear, so no one's gonna really stare at them if you have them up in your ceiling, because you need somewhere to attach the candles. And then of course you need fishing line, which again, I also found on Amazon, pretty cheap. I think it was like $6, so at least I think that's cheap. I've never actually bought fishing line, so I don't know. But this one didn't look like too bad of a DIY, so let's go ahead and get started. Starting out with the easiest step here, we are just taking the candles out the box, adding in all the batteries, turning them on, and making sure that they all actually light up before we go to hang them outside. Once that is done, we're grabbing our fishing line and we are going to be placing this right in that crevice where the top portion of the light where you screw it into the base goes. Right in there, we want to make a tie, so that way it's got something to grip onto. We're going to tie it about 3 times, make sure it's really sturdy, cutting off the excess, and then you're going to have something that looks like this. Definitely the most tedious step here, because once you've done it to that one, you gotta do it to the rest of the 11. Each time leaving a really decent amount of that fishing line left over, so that way when we go to hang it in the ceiling, I have a good amount to play with to make them shorter or longer if I want to. Next step is to go outside and hang them in the ceiling, but I won't really be able to show you guys that clearly once I'm out there, so this is just a little bit of a visual as to how I'm actually going to be hooking them once they're in the ceiling. Just going to give a loop into that command hook, tie it down like we did with this string around the light, give it a couple ties, and that is it. And then we're able to move this party outside and just start arranging them in my porch area. And here's a little bit of a closer look as to what I did with this first row here. I'm making sure that I'm staggering them so each time they're not exactly at the same length and where they are being placed in the ceiling. That way when you're looking at it, you get a very nice visual of they're just like out there floating. It doesn't look so synchronized, and that's what we want. We want it to look a little bit scattered. And there we have it, probably the easiest and yet most beautiful, whimsical DIY that I have created. Hang on, let me show you guys it in night mode real quick. This is just so beautiful. It really does give such a magical touch to the front here, and I am beyond obsessed with how this looks now. Alright, but that is gonna be it, you guys, for my 3 Halloween DIYs. This was so much fun to be able to create with you guys. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you guys want to see any more of these videos, please let me know, and also let me know if there's any kind of DIYs that you specifically want me to try to recreate that maybe you've seen. I would definitely love to do so, because I'm definitely thinking I need to do a couple more little Halloween DIYs here. I'm taking full advantage this year, starting early with Halloween. But yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that little bell button. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys!